In this episode, I interviewed Julie Huxley-Jones. Julie sits at the cutting edge of AI, digital R&D and science, and is a passionate leader in this highly innovative space. We spoke about how to implement digitalisation into your business, what MedTech can learn from big pharma, the impact of digital on jobs, and her big why of what brought her into healthcare. This is such a hot topic, guys. I hope you really enjoy this episode. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Career Diaries by Elemed, the podcast dedicated to talking about careers in the MedTech industry. And today I'm super excited to have Julie Huxley-Jones, most recently the VP of Scientific Digital and Tech at GSK. We are going to be talking about digitisation, the big hot topic in MedTech right now. So welcome, Julie.
Delighted to be here, Elena. Thank you so much for having me.
I am so excited to talk about this topic because it's something that, you know, our audience is predominantly in the MedTech world, and it's something that is coming up time and time again. And to see someone who has actually lived in the pharma world and done it and actually had that experience of how do you digitize, what is that process, what are the learns, I'm super excited to learn about everything that you have to share with us today. But maybe you can talk a little bit more about actually what is scientific digital and tech.
It really is a fusion, and I think what's exciting about the whole of all of our industries in health technology is how previously tech was another thing, data was another thing, and we did our awesome engineering and our awesome science separately. And what's really exciting in our industry now is data and tech is the foundation, powers everything that we do. So as a consequence, how I've led and how I continue to lead in my philosophy about how you power pharmaceuticals, how you power MedTech, is you think about it together as one, as scientific, digital and technology together, as MedTech and digital and technology together, rather than parallel functions. And so what I've been doing most recently is leading a function, bringing together brilliant scientists, brilliant engineers, brilliant IT professionals, brilliant data scientists and data engineers together to say, how do you solve that problem together rather than in parallel? And I think the foundations are totally there in the MedTech world as well, because we've got a heritage of awesome engineering, people who really think systematically. That is ripe for the data and technology world to come and really supercharge it.
It's really really exciting because actually they say that MedTech kind of follows pharma trends. You know, even in regulatory affairs, they kind of say, you know, with this new regulation coming into Europe, it's kind of moving more towards that direction that we see in pharma. But we're also seeing it in the way development is done, and digitisation is a hot topic. But it's actually something that's existed in pharma for a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, it is. And actually, I think now is an even more exciting time because we're also being disrupted through AI across our businesses.
Yeah.
So in the MedTech world, there's huge opportunity to take generative AI to write all of the documents, all of the regulatory information that is now really needed in the MedTech world. Lots of industries are applying that. Healthcare and pharma have been applying that for a while. And also look at how do you predict your next product? How do you take the wealth of data from computer-aided design on all of our devices in MedTech and use that to predict and design out and augment expert designers thinking of the next device, the next technology? Or to transform manufacturing, which, you know, 5-10 years ago was really being transformed through robotics and physical automation, and with digital automation too, bringing those worlds to the fore to say not only how do you execute a process faster and more robustly, but how do you predict it out? So manufacturing priors, control strategies, product design, all of those areas, there's so many parallels between our industries where the currency is the ability to use technology, the ability to use AI, and the ability to use data, do that even smarter than before.
And I'm going to be interested to we'll come back to this later, but the impact of that on jobs, because I'm sure there's people listening to this going, okay, but I sit there and write the regulatory documents right now. If we have a tool that's going to do that for us, what does that mean for me? And I know you've got some really interesting perspective on that. So we will definitely circle back to the impact of this on jobs. But I just want to cycle back a little bit to just, if somebody's listening to this, they know that AI is a thing. They know that digitisation is a hot topic. But actually, let's just boil it down. Like, how would you actually describe what it actually means in the context of healthcare?
I think it's a couple of things. It's about, firstly, embracing a very curious mindset. At the moment, the transformative tool is digital. 5 years' time, 10 years' time, the transformative tool will be something completely different. And so it's about, firstly, remaining curious and open to what is the next thing that will enable me to do my role better, or a new role that doesn't exist. And when we were talking about planning and thinking about what this podcast session might mean, so much of my journey has been about what is the next new tool, technology, capability coming that allows us to level up what we do currently in a smarter and more productive way. And by doing so, becoming more agile and becoming more open and not fearing a technology. I remember 10 years ago, when we first met, building automation robotics was all about freeing the hands and releasing the minds to do more. And that's exactly what AI and digital is as well. It's about freeing your hands to release your mind to do more. Rather than saying, what is that as a threat? What are the things that I wished I could do if only I was freed up from the mundane? If only the first draft of all of that documentation was written for me so that I could add my expertise on top. And I think that augmentation and being open to that is the key ingredient to any form of digitisation, and being receptive to what the next technology will come along with in 5 years' time. We didn't know 5 years ago generative AI was going to have as transformative approach, but we certainly knew it was exciting. That's why we have ChatGPT 4, not ChatGPT 1 at the moment blowing up. What version 10 will be will change the game again, so you have to stay agile to it. So I'm interested to know, how did you even get into this? Because you're a scientist by background, right? You started in a lab, if I understood well. So talk me through your journey. How does a lab scientist end up as the VP of Scientific, Digital and Tech at a major pharmaceutical company? So it's actually all started right at the start of my academic career with being multilingual. So very early on, when I was doing my PhD, I actually did a PhD that comprised of 2 different labs in 2 different industries. I was working in the computer science department and bioinformatics, really with a team who was understanding HIV evolution using hardcore computational modelling. And my other research professor was in the lab doing molecular biology, wet lab research, really understanding sterile techniques and growing bacteria and exploiting DNA to be able to understand tissues and diseases in tissues and how they break down. These worlds rarely collided. I had a wonderful opportunity at the start of my career with 2 great professors in 2 great different departments to get curious about how can we leverage the computational technology and the wet lab biology, fuse them together to come up with new hypotheses about how we are here, and also how disease evolves. And that was such a powerful lesson early on the power of bringing different communities together to create magic and spark innovation, and taught me how I would choose to lead. So as I joined the pharmaceutical industry, much to the disappointment of my professors who were hoping I'd stay in academia, I really wanted to play in that matrix continuously. And I had the privilege of working in a village. Drug discovery is all about bringing lots of different disciplines together. So straight away, my first job was working with chemists and pathologists and medics as the computational biologist in the room to work out which treatment we want to start really prosecuting, and how do we test and design a new molecule to treat that disease. And that really is not one discipline. It's a village of different disciplines having the humility to come together, the curiosity to learn, and the appreciation of the different skills it takes, but also the need to speak different languages and translate your research quickly. I got into that space so excitedly. I then really wanted to learn about how to unlock that. So for the next few years, I spent time looking at how do we unlock what are called platform capabilities in drug discovery. So this is, how do you unlock computational research? How do you unlock labs? How do you invest in the right new technologies as they come along? How do you build growth strategies that allow you to build competitively and buy collaboratively? To unlock chemistry, preclinical research, drug discovery, invest in biopharms and cell and gene therapies. And that was a great opportunity to see broadly across the key capabilities what was needed in the science, but also how technology could supercharge that. I had the privilege of getting really curious in the robotics frontier. Had the opportunity to write a position paper for GSK about just what was needed to power the labs and what level of investment we needed, as there was pockets of innovation happening, but not systematic catalyzation of robotics. And again, that was something I really didn't have a background for, but I could see the potential, and I had the appreciation of the need for good quality, standardized data being powerful to build models and better predictive results. Ran robotics and created a cultural change over 4 years that meant that it was an embraced technology. We didn't need a robotics department, we just needed everybody using it. And then from there, got really curious about manufacturing. I'd worked in discovery, I'd understood research, and I'd certainly worked with clinical teams, but I'd never really understood what it took to manufacture a treatment. And as a wise mentor of mine, John Baldoni, said, there's the race to the molecule and the race to the target, all about bringing biology and chemistry together. There's the race to the medicine, which is how do you make it, and there's the race to the patient to test it. And I really wanted to spend my career understanding all four races, comprehensively and in the weeds. So I took my expertise in systematic thinking and strategic thinking, in thinking about data and how to use that to work differently, into the world of CMC, to operationalize, to bring strategy, to bring externalization to the forefront, and to build more modern technical plans. And then through that 4 years ago, saw the opportunity with Gen AI, wanted to take that into the world of technology, poacher turned gamekeeper, bringing the voice of the customer into the world of IT and igniting that flame into the IT organisation at GSK. And I'm really proud to say that culture is what I've most recently built.
And the culture piece, I think, is so important, isn't it? Because what I see at the moment are these pockets of innovation within. So what I'm seeing right now is large organisations are saying we need to do something with AI or technology or digital. There's kind of like this pressure from above of we need to do something there. Not everybody at the moment is kind of exploring, okay, what can we do? What should we be doing? And so digitisation is kind of the common thread of what's coming out of conversations that I'm having. But people are saying, well, how do I do that? And, how do I know that it's going to be the right decision? And, if I make a bad decision and I implement something, how does that reflect on me? And so there's this tentativeness around it. So what we tend to see are companies kind of dabbling on the side a little bit, but not really fully embracing it. So what does it take to go from, as you said, because you saw that at GSK, like the experimentation a little bit on the side, to actually getting a company to buy into the value of this?
It's a great question, and I see it everywhere at the moment. The pressure is real. I understand and I absolutely empathise with executives and the boards on we need to harness digital, we need to harness AI. What do we do? And I think there's a couple of obvious approaches that you would tailor to any part of the medtech industry. Number one is having a ready now, ready soon, and ready in the future philosophy to it. Where are there quick wins where you can immediately make operational, fiscal impact to either velocity of what you do or the capability of what you deliver, or frankly just how it is done from a cost base that you can use to not only deliver value but excite your workforce, get them receptive to using technology and see it not as a threat. And that's where often I see both the quick wins around co-pilots, writing your documents for you, taking the pain away, and seeing those investments also as the start of a cultural change. They're kind of no-fail moves. They're not going to be the groundbreaking, complete transformation in how you deliver MedTech, but they create the initial drop in the ocean that creates the ripple of excitement. I think the next thing is having a coordinated strategy about ready soon innovations that are happening in other industries. Where can you steal with pride? And so it becomes about being receptive to the stories across different industries. Where are digital twins unlocking manufacturing? Where are predictive capabilities understanding design? How is product design completely transforming? How is your software engineering being augmented and maybe even written for you using a GitHub Copilot? How do we think of that holistically to start to steal with pride and build a strategy that works for the particular company in MedTech that is facing this challenge at its point in time? And those changes will be different depending on whether you have a big product that you're launching and you really want to hit your go-to-market hard and it's all about flooding manufacturing, B2B sales and augmenting the sales experience, or if it's about an early stage, building the next R&D product for the future. And then finally, it's also about having the courage and confidence to have a ready in the future strategy as well. It won't be 90% of what you do, but that will be more high risk, but more high reward, and accepting that some of your strategic portfolio will have things that may not work. When you come from an industry where 80% failure would be brilliant. And when I started in the industry, 95% failure was industry norm. So we've made some progress, right? Actually, it builds huge resilience and also appreciation that not everything that you try will work, but you will learn from something every single time. The experiments that you do that don't work teach you things as well as the experiments that you do. I think it's a huge opportunity to share that mindset across more industries. So where can the medtech industry take that mindset and use it as an approach to digitalization and say, what are the things that we're really curious about? We're comfortable that they may not work, but we're going to take some bold moves, pilot some things, build some MVPs, and learn about where we want to transform our industry, and also be comfortable that some of them will not work. And that takes bold executive leadership, but it also takes a smart strategy of those ready now, ready soon, and ready in the future wins that allows you to have a high confidence, high ROI, quick impact portfolio, a suite of things that will change and evolve rapidly, because let's be honest, we're digitalizing at pace and the whole of the AI industry is hitting our medtech and pharmatech industry like a train track at the moment. And so the more we can do to be receptive and accept that some things may not work. And also some things might be solved by someone else next week. And so we need to be agile about what we want to solve ourselves, but also how quickly we could adapt and absorb innovations that have come along and disrupt our industry really quickly, and then have bets on what we want to really rip up the rule book. Very rarely in any industry do we have a pure green field unless we're building a company from scratch.
Yeah.
But if we can approach every single company with a greenfield mindset of what would you rebuild from scratch if you had to, it allows you to think more broadly about where do you want to adapt and where do you want to adopt. And if we think about MedTech, we have 3 big problems. Just like I talked about Pharma, there's 4 big races. It's designing that product and really understanding the patient or market need. It's about manufacturing it absolutely exquisitely, rapidly and robustly. And it's about getting that product out to market to a myriad of payers and patient needs. And it's highly diversified in MedTech. And digital health being a new frontier for MedTech, augmenting classical brilliant engineering with nudge technologies, digital devices that we wear every single day. The question becomes, how do each of those races change in relation to how digitalization is going to disrupt it? And they are going to be very different.
I really like your idea, and you've spoken to this throughout the conversation around kind of like the fusing of different industries, different disciplines, and I really believe in that, right? I really believe in bringing kind of different opinions to the table, different experiences to the table, because that's when you really can create magic, to your point. And so this idea of like borrowing from other industries and actually not looking just inside of MedTech and saying, well, what's the most innovative MedTech company doing and how can we kind of learn from that? But actually looking at other industries and saying, what are other industries doing and how can we learn from that and bring it into MedTech? What have you got your eye on right now in terms of, and where did you get your inspiration for Pharma, for example? What industries did you look at?
So actually, I'll start with a story about my inspiration for Pharma, and then I'll answer sort of the talent question. For me, actually, it's very personal. So my life changed when I was 8 years old. I was diagnosed with epilepsy, and very quickly I was in hospital 1 or 2 days a week.
Wow.
And my life changed again when I got a medicine that worked for me. And all of a sudden, not only was I able to go back to school and have a great life, but also I could see the impact on my family and my friends. And that really early lesson for me shaped my motivation to make an impact in innovation and health, because I felt the benefit of the scientists who discovered the treatment, the manufacturers who made it, the sales and commercial teams who got it out there, the regulators who took a bet on it, the doctors who prescribed it, and the doctors and nurses who cared for me that checked that that treatment was working. And that for me is such a personal journey. It shaped absolutely my interest in science and health. It shaped absolutely my interest in wanting to really give back every single day. And it drove the passion for me, which is how can we do it faster and quicker? Because there are still so many people around the world who can't access the treatment or device that they need, either because it doesn't exist or because they can't afford it. And so that is the drumbeat that has driven every decision I've made to get curious about the next new thing that could do this. And it's the story I tell when I join new teams as well, of this is what I'm about. And I will always be asking, how can we do it smarter? How can we do it quicker? Not only because that's the sensible thing to do, but because I truly know what it feels like to be waiting for a good treatment or a good device or a good augmentation to my life. And so when I think about teams, actually one of the most amazing things that we have at our disposal in MedTech and PharmTech is the ability to attract amazing talent from different industries, be it amazing engineers, be it amazing product designers, incredible sales leaders, incredible IT professionals. when you work in a translational industry, when you have a skill that you can apply to any industry, many of those, plus all our incredible partners in finance and HR, in talent, in business, there is nothing better than to say, do you want to go and improve somebody's profitability, or do you want to go and save lives? And so for me, what I've enjoyed is about exciting people to come onto that mission and to say, what do you want to do with your agency and the time you have to work? And I really believe in purpose-driven leadership. Some people's purpose will be completely different to mine. Some people want to be the best in their discipline, and that's awesome. But I think if you pose the question, say, what do you want to go and tell your granny at the end of the day? What do you want to go and tell your kids and your family about? What do you want to go and tell your friends about how you feel proud about what you do? It is about the expertise that you have. It is about being the best you can be. And it's also about why you're doing it and for what purpose. And there really is nothing better than being in our industry, catalyzing innovation and improving humanity. I can't think of anything better than that. And that's been the biggest opportunity I've had to attract people in. I also fundamentally believe that diverse teams are higher performing. That's about diversity in all its guises, about what we look like, where we come from, our lived experiences and our discipline diversity. Some of the most high-performing teams I've ever had the privilege to lead and support or sponsor have been those that have brought people in from lots of different industries to solve a problem. You have to have a core understanding of the business that you're in. Please, MedTech, don't lose MedTech. But augment it and invite it in with people who are curious about solving that problem and who have seen similar problems solved or tried to solve them in different industries. It will enrich your experience. It will enrich your curiosity. It will seed and stimulate innovation in ways that haven't been thought from before. And you may still solve the same problem, but you might solve it faster.
That's well, just so much to unpack there, and such an inspirational story. I didn't know that about you, but I think it's it really shines through. And being able to, because actually I wanted to make one point. I was going to challenge you, but you answered it in your answer, because I was speaking to a friend of mine who told me, okay, yes, digital. So I said, okay, well, let's go and recruit some digital people, and bring them into MedTech, because that's what a lot of companies are going to be looking for. And then the conversation quickly became, but did you know that if you speak to tech engineers who can go into any industry that they want, often the reply is the two industries they don't want to work in are banking and healthcare, because it's so slow to bring products to market, and because of the regulation behind doing that. Whereas you can go and work for another company and deploy your product within a matter of days, or do releases really, really quickly. But actually the story of the mission, and saying to that question, okay, well, what do you want to say to your granny, or when you look back on your life, what do you want to say your legacy has been? And we're going to talk about legacy a little bit later. That's something that's so powerful, that is a way to bring that talent in. And actually what you're saying to them is not, hey, we're going to build this really cool digital product. It's more about the bigger impact that that's having, and the fact that being in an industry like this, you are directly impacting people's lives, saving, transforming, changing. And as you said, what other industry can offer that?
And I would say that the ultimate end product, the device, the digital health augmentation, the pharmaceutical, the vaccine, the ultimate output, there is a long lead time. We have a responsibility to make sure that product really does work. We can't just launch it and hope, right? No one's going to take a treatment or have an implantable device in their body, or if nobody knew it would work. We have a responsibility to our patients to do that. But at the same time, there is huge velocity. Significant innovation cycles are happening, and in the digital world, you do have to create products very, very quickly. You're releasing monthly. One team I was working with was releasing bi-weekly to improve the decision making, and decisions are happening really, really quickly. And the industry itself is accelerating at such a pace because it's finally woken up. Yes, we're a MedTech industry. Yes, we're a pharma industry. But realistically, we're a data industry. We are the only industry for hundreds of years that has to produce a data package to a regulator to prove that our product works. So yes, it's a pill, it's a device, it's an implantable, but it's also an evidence package. It's also data. It's also a compelling evidence story that proves that it works. And so there's a huge opportunity for MedTech to think about each company as a data company and to attract people who are passionate about digital and data to solve that at high velocity and solve problems at high velocity within that bigger picture.
Really interesting to look at it from the perspective of a data company, because it's actually so true. And MedTech and Pharma has so much data at its disposal, historic data as well, that actually they can leverage that, can't they? So I'm interested to talk about lessons learned then, right? So if you reflect back on your journey of digitizing within pharma, what would you say is some of the big lessons that MedTech can learn from your experience?
So actually, I think the biggest one is one we've touched on, which is really be humble to look broadly. I got a very sharp lesson this early on in my career when I first started working in strategy. And I'd never worked in strategy before. I was a pure scientist and was plonked into the corporate executive team's future innovation group to say, can you go and create a strategy around animal research for GSK? A huge development opportunity for me where I learned. And one of the best lessons I got was to think about the world in 3 concentric circles. Think about problem solving in your own world as the heart of what you do, and you can do that. But you also have to think about the related world that surrounds it. People who are solving similar problems in different ways, or people who have orthogonal challenges. Hey, we're drowning in too much data. Hey, we've got all these different communities that need to come together and translate their disciplines and talk to each other. Hey, we've got to submit a package of data to somebody else. Hey, we've got all these administrative tasks that we have to do, we want to do, but we really want to do them well. Everybody's trying to do that. And also look at the weird world that surrounds that. Think 2 steps removed. Think about industries and sectors or leaders who face similar challenges to the orthogonal world. So take that -2 step. And that was a huge learning for me, to not think narrow, but to start broad, really broad. Think about multiple steps out and then come back in. As engineers, as scientists, as technologists, we're really reductionist. We love thinking about a problem and going really, really deep, really quickly, because that's what we've been trained to do. And it takes a moment before you solve the problem, because that's what we love doing, is going in, hearing the problem, going deep and solving it, to pause, catch the breath, cultivate the team, to pause and ask, let's think broadly, go broad, not just 1 step, but 2. Think about how problems could be solved, not just what the problem is, and then go and solve it. And that lesson back in 2011, actually from the most amazing manager who, love him to pieces, had no interest in science or technology. He was an amazing person, and he taught me about leadership and culture and politics and cultivation in such a different way. A real example of 2 different worlds colliding. But to think broadly, think strategically first, will build you a better strategy, certainly will enable you to digitalize MedTech in a different way. So I think that's lesson 1. Lesson 2 is cultivate a rich and diverse team, intentional on the primary axes and the secondary axes. your best team is one that challenges freely, has the social construct and the psychological safety to bring up problems and to hash them out, is one where you as a leader are part of that team. Yes, some days you have to make the tough decision and put the big girl pants on and say, yep, this is what we're doing. But actually most of the time you're in there with your people, cultivating and stimulating and bringing your perspective and welcoming that. So I lead my organizations as a family. Families have each other when times are tough, but families also really good at truth telling. Cultivate that and bring in diverse talent that allows you to think differently, lead differently, solve problems in a smarter way. And then that absolute final lesson, and that's why I reinforce things, is have that portfolio. And in every role I've led at scale, I've always had that portfolio ready now, ready soon, and ready in the future innovation. Whether my role was to be an innovator or to get the job done through innovation, know where you can build, know where you can buy, know where you can steal with pride, know where you can learn, so that you're continually testing how you execute. And actually, if you take those 4 secret sources, you can apply it to any technological innovation or any organization, but particularly they're advantageous when you're thinking of transforming somebody up, whether it's with AI and digital or the next new exciting thing that's going to come along soon.
Thank you for sharing your learnings. I think there's so much gold in there. I want to touch on the topic of build or buy, because I know that this is also a question that companies are thinking about. What's your take on that when it comes to digital?
So remember earlier on I mentioned about humility and agility. Actually, build or buy to me is about humility and agility and a mindset to go continually in interrogating your strategy and your competitivity about where can you be receptive to the next new thing and where don't you. So axis number 1 is what's competitivity. What's so competitive to your organization? What really is the heart of your IP that you don't want anyone else to know? Is it how you design that implantable? Is it how you come up with the next new device product? Is it what that injectable or that inhalable looks like? What is your IP? And ask, do you want to build that or do you want to buy that? Because that's a real question on really, is it your IP or not? And often that will be the thing that you build yourself. It's also inversely asking, what are the capabilities that we need that we're not too precious about having to own? And there's a wealth of amazing partners, suppliers, vendors in our ecosystem that build incredible products. And you don't have to have something perfect for you. You have to ask, what would be okay with 80% right to our processes? Because often it's a lot easier to change how you work to a technology that's out there than it is to change a technology to how you work. You could spend millions customizing something for marginal return. And it's also about asking what's in the middle, about where is there need that doesn't already exist, that you cannot buy, but maybe isn't so competitively advantageous to you that you want to build yourself. And that's about exploring competitivity, collaboration, open innovation, coming together as potential future customers in open innovation space or pre-competitive space and bringing forth potential suppliers and say, hey, we're a sitting market, we really need this solution. Or working with academia to stimulate a new need. And I love what's happening in universities, particularly around manufacturing and device engineering right now. Incredible ideas are coming out where they need MedTech sponsorship. Where MedTech is probably not the next new product, but it might be the next new how they solve it. And so it's about being precise on build, buy, and buy for the future. It's that ready in the future, ready now, ready soon concept again. Being precise about it now, but also saying, okay, every 6 months, has it changed a little bit? What needs to evolve in our strategy? What needs to evolve in our procurement? And making sure that our partners and our organisations in procurement in our organisations are just as agile in the terms and in conditions, so that the organisation can move really, really dynamically as the industry and environment around us is moving dynamically. That would be how I'd approach it.
So let's move forwards and talk about jobs now, because this is, I know, a really, really hot topic. If you were to kind of look at it right now, what do you think the impact of digitisation is going to be on people's jobs?
It's a great question. I believe in lessons from history, actually. This is industry real revolution 5, 6, 7 all happening at the same time, but across every industrial revolution. And let's take 4.0, robotics and automation is the most recent one of about a decade ago. Some roles were eliminated, most roles were augmented, and some were completely untouched. So manufacturing completely transformed. Lots of lines augmented by robots, allowing people to really work on that next level up, quality control and control tower. Some roles augmented, particularly a lot of the lab work. Certainly your QC labs in MedTech would be augmented by robotics, and some roles completely untouched. HR was pretty much untouched by robotics, right? And it's exactly the same thing's going to happen again, but slightly different roles. So I can absolutely see impact to a lot of the core functions, many of which are often in real budget pressure, right? When you're making difficult choices about, do you invest in innovating that next new product, or do you push on growing your sales team to get your current MedTech product out there to the market? It might be your core functions, HR, finance, IT, that take the hit. But actually, that's where generative AI, particularly in digital, can probably have the biggest impact to augment and maximize your precious capability that you've got there. So I think they're an immediate opportunity in core functions. Another area where MedTech can really both come together and learn from each other, because everybody's solving those problems similarly. And at the same time, I think it's going to be in our engineering functions, in our design functions, where digital make a huge impact in releasing capacity and that leveling up, just as we saw in the manufacturing lines, leveling up the human experience to work on the next level problems, seeing that being the core capability, particularly in some of the digital teams. I mean, writing code is one thing, but if your generative AI chatbot writes your first code for you, it's the problem solving and the design of the code. Designing the first product, writing the first regulatory file draft. Well, actually, the human effort is augmenting the first draft, not writing the first draft anymore. So I think it's that leveled up experience that will happen. And just like we don't have robot hairdressers right now, right?
My dad would be really happy to know that.
We might not have generative AI undertakers right now either. You know, there are still huge industries that aren't yet being tapped because they're all about the human experience. And in our MedTech industry, think about many activities that are about the human experience. Having that key conversation with the talent in your team about their career aspirations, understanding someone's personal motivation and giving them the confidence, coaching them to find their next career path. Having the real conversation about performance feedback of what someone's doing really well and giving them the bold, generous confidence to go and do more, and also the real conversation about where they need to improve. That's really human. I'm not seeing AI going to replace that anytime soon. And it's probably much more ignorable if a chatbot shows up on your screen, hey, you need to present better, versus a real conversation with a person. So there's a lot of activities that we also do within MedTech that will become more obviously precious about the human experience as we're freed up from the mundane administrative.
So it's really about releasing capacity, as you said, rather than replacing people.
Yeah.
And so then the follow-on question for that becomes, thinking about all the different generations of people in the workforce right now, what can people do to prepare and to embrace digital?
Yeah. Love it. So I think firstly, it's about being really curious. I mean, the world is being incredibly generous at the moment. Some of the most prestigious universities and tech institutions around the world have training courses for free around generative AI and AI. You can find incredible courses about how to prompt engineer. Last week, I wrote my first prompt engineered PowerPoint pack. Never done it before, did it in 5 minutes. Some of the slides were useless, but also it gave me a structure. So continually asking, what can you learn? Actually, the first question is just getting out there, following some of the most powerful innovators, leveraging socials, but also just following institutions. You know, MIT, Google have amazing resources that they've launched for free for you to go and learn about it. Get off your back and go and learn about it. Spend that 20-minute coffee conversation with someone you'd normally have about shooting the breeze. Share what you've learned recently, or ask someone what they've learned, because I think there's also a lot about not just the classical learning, but the sharing of experience, I think, can be done. I also think it's about, meeting your colleagues, learning about their experiences, asking what they do, and learning how they're being transformed, because I think that's where you get that catalytic potential of, I didn't realize that's something I could apply to my problems as well. I think that philosophy transcends every generation and every discipline. I think if you're a digital native, well done, you lucky person. Think about what you can bring, right? And I think if you're a non-digital native, think about all the context that you have, all the journeys that you've gone through, and all the learning agility you've had from being pre-digital, pre-internet even, and how you have succeeded. And so you've already done the hard thing of becoming online, becoming digital, I remember embracing computers, AI has nothing to fear, right? Digital is nothing to fear. You've already done the hard work. You're still working in that environment. So sometimes it's about celebrating your journey that you've already got and being comfortable to own that innovation journey that you've already achieved, and then just going out there, making that 20 minutes a week to go and learn something new or talking about it, rather than seeing it as this huge hurdle. The old adage is a good one, break the elephant up bit by bit, don't try and eat the whole thing. I think with the world of digital, if you try and eat the whole thing, it will evolve to a camel next week really quickly. So to just try and keep doing it bit by bit by bit.
Yeah, so baby steps is the message. So this has been a fascinating conversation. We've covered a whole myriad of different topics, and I've really enjoyed learning from you. I've learned so much during this conversation. But the big question that I have for everybody, and I'd love your take on this, is what is the legacy that you want to leave on the world?
And it's such an incredible question. And every time I've listened to this podcast, everybody has that pause for thought where the question's coming and you're thinking, well, how do I answer this? I think for me, it's about two things. It's about unlocking as many people as I can about the potential to make an impact, because I know it's not myself. 20 years in the life sciences industry, I've not solved anything alone, right? It's about unlocking the potential of others to excite them. I think that's my key impact as a leader, is if I've attracted, retained and grown people who are passionate about solving these problems together, that's the best legacy I can leave. And I think the second one is continually showing up as someone who's always hungry to learn. I'm in my early 40s. I have 20 plus years ahead of me. I have no idea what the industry will look like in 20 years around health. But what I'm excited about is to transform and be part of that journey. Just like 20 years ago when I started, it was brand new for me too. So I think my other impact and legacy would be to share with others and continue to embody humility, hunger to learn, and a bit of courage to try.
This has been really, really inspirational, Julie. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Career Diaries by Elemed. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.